Thinking about the very beginning, if I had to say what initially drew me to the Marlin, 2 words come to mind: size and potential. Just creating something that large was exciting, as most of my earlier works had been much smaller. Then, when I got Lucky Mike home, the potential of what this piece could be really drove me. Actually, it really slowed me down at first. I just looked at it for weeks before I could move forward. In the beginning, it was a celebration of the animal. Marlins are absolutely beautiful creatures with such a variety of colors that change and sparkle depending on how the light hits them. But as I began to do some research on the details of the appearance of a marlin, things began to change. I looked at a lot of photos and videos of marlin, and I found myself feeling a bit sad. Some of the photos were marlins bleeding, or being hacked up, or being hung up literally as a trophy because it was unfortunate enough to be the biggest or heaviest fish caught in that tournament. All the color was drained out of them, and they hung as a large gray mass, dead. I'm not trying to make a statement or condemn those who fish. I eat fish and I fish sometimes. It just made me sad. So, back to Lucky Mike. I wanted the piece to remind people of how much beauty there is in nature and to show it the respect it deserves. Working with some of the best crystals in the world on this scale was a blast. Most of my earlier work with crystals was on a smaller scale, which really limited what I could do with them. Trying to create blends and shading with crystals is very different than using paint, so working on a larger scale gave me the opportunity to use extensive variety of colors of crystals to try to imitate the subtle blends of colors in a real marlin. I began Lucky Mike in 2017, but after some serious health challenges, my work paused and the relationship to the sculpture shifted. The year before, in 2016, I had a virus attack my left vestibular nerve, which presented as very bad vertigo. Everything was spinning, and it took me months to rehab from this. I still have some residual effects from it to this day. With respect to Lucky Mike, there were times when the work was physically demanding, whether it was standing hunched over the marlin for hours, or sitting on the floor looking back up into the mouth of the marlin twisted while trying to place tiny crystals with tweezers into an area I could barely see, all the while feeling dizzy. That part was particularly challenging with the remnants of the vertigo. Then, in 2018, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. That diagnosis halted my work on the marlin. I was faced with my own mortality, and somehow working on an art piece no longer mattered. My daughter, who was the youngest of my 3 children, was 10 at the time, and of course thoughts were going through my head about whether I would be around to watch her grow up. Lucky Mike no longer mattered to me. I wound up having a lumpectomy and went to radiation, I think 5 times a week for several weeks. Naturally, I experienced burns and fatigues. Not a good combo to want to work on an art piece. Plus, I think there was an element of working on something that was once alive and is now dead that kept me away from the marlin. Eventually, the burns healed, the prognosis was good, and I began to regain my strength. I walked up to my studio, which is in my house, so it wasn't a long walk, and I had a talk with the marlin. It was time for me to finish it. If I'm being truthful, when I first started working on Lucky Mike, I wasn't as disciplined as I could have been. Now I had a new energy behind the work and became very disciplined on showing up to work every day. With such a large piece and using such tiny crystals, the project was a little daunting at times, and the work was very slow. As I got closer and closer to finishing, I became more excited about the final result. I let my daughter put on the second to the last crystal, and when I placed the last crystal on the marlin, there was such a sense of accomplishment and of determination and of pride. Now that Lucky Mike is publicly exhibited, it's very exciting for me to see how people react to it. I generally get really positive feedback when people see it for the first time. If I'm there when someone is viewing it, I love to see their reaction when I tell them about the process of creating Lucky Mike. So much work and love was put into this piece. It brings me great joy to see people react favorably to it. When someone encounters this piece for the first time, my hope is that they take some time and truly take it all in. I want them to not only gain a respect for the time and effort and expertise that it took to create a piece of this size and detail, but also to recognize the beauty of nature, the subtle and sometimes not so subtle colors and patterns that exist in nature every day if we just stop to take the time to really look at it. If I had to describe Lucky Mike in one word or phrase, it would be awe-inspiring. Awe-inspiring for the work, for marlins and other magnificent creatures of both land and sea, and for the beauty of the crystals themselves and the way the sunshine lights them up. I've sat in my home and stared at that marlin for long periods of time, and am still in awe. My wish is that whoever brings Lucky Mike into their home has the same experience.